Good evening, SAMSA Chair, Acting CEO, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for inviting me to give the input from the legal fraternity. So the year, of course, was dominated by the shadow of COVID-19. And my law firm gave an immense amount of advice in the early stages of the pandemic. One of the things we were faced with was very fast changing regulations and directions, especially in the earlier stages. And as we were bombarded with these almost on a weekly basis, it became clear that the haste in drafting the regulations resulted in a lack of clarity, ambiguity, and often contradictory regulations and directions, which created immense uncertainty and difficulty for us in providing advice to the industry. We worked very hard with Business Unity South Africa and the DOT to try and clarify some of these, and it did demonstrate the importance of working together. In the judicial system, the South African High Court remained open, just, but with restricted access and a significant slowing down in the judicial process. This saw the referral of a number of trials to alternative dispute resolution fora such as arbitration. We also saw trials and applications taking place virtually, which of course was a first, but on the whole, our team's experience was that it worked well. Our ability to investigate casualties was quite constrained, partly because of travel restrictions and partly because of our difficulty in accessing vessels and the ports. This necessitated taking witness statements remotely, and I think we can all feel grateful that there were no significant casualties during the year. In terms of the type of advice we were giving, of course, there were contractual meltdowns, charter parties, supply contracts, throughput, offtake, and so on. We were giving a lot of advice on force majeure and on the impact of the regulations and directions on the ability of cargo to flow. As you know, the only essential goods were allowed to flow, and this constrained business enormously and started a chain reaction of congestion in the ports and the entire supply chain. I know that other speakers will be talking about crew changes and cruising. I just wanted to commend SAMSA in particular on its humanitarian effort in resolving some of the issues in the industry. In terms of what the future holds, what COVID has shown us is that the shipping and legal industries are very versatile and can respond to dramatic and unexpected changes. What it also showed us was the extent of the interrelationship between the various elements of the shipping industry and the global supply chains. And what became very apparent was that you can have changes made in one area which have a massive knock-on effect in other. So for instance, restrictions on air travel had effects on crew changes and so on. And so for us, it's absolutely essential that legislators and policymakers— one area which have a massive knock-on effect in other. So for instance, restrictions on air travel had effects on— sorry, I'm getting a big echo. I think it's vital that legislators and policymakers understand the knock-on effect in other industries when they make changes in our industry and vice versa. And so we see it very important for collaboration in this area. We think there's a vast scope for digitization, as mentioned by the CEO, and that the paperless supply chain will become more and more of a reality. We believe that there will be greater public-private collaboration in port and infrastructure development, although we have no way of knowing to what extent this will have slowed down because of the worldwide slowdown in the economy. But China's hunger for commodity seems to be growing again, and we believe that this will present more of a hiccup. We also believe that there will be initiatives to bring about the long outstanding corporatization of TNPA and possibly the establishment of a single transport regulator. In terms of possible collaborations, As I've hinted, I think it's vital that government lawmakers and draftsmen collaborate with shipping and logistics lawyers in order to ensure that we have clear, unambiguous and enforceable legislation. It's also vital that they understand the interplay in the supply chain. Legal certainty is fundamental as part of the environment for a flourishing business. Finally, I think that there needs to be far more collaboration between lawyers, port authorities, government officials, and lawyers should be the link in the chain between the private sector and the state. And on that note, Program Director, I'll leave the conversation. Thank you very much.